Hello and welcome to the New Rules of Sex Summit, your sexual re-education. My name is Dr. Lauren Brem, and I am here today with Susan Bratton, trusted hot sex advisor to millions. Welcome, Susan.
Hello, Lauren. Thank you so much for having me. I called you up and said, I love what you're doing. Can I participate? Because, there's all kinds of people helping people find the one and do dating and things like that. But I am all about hot sex. And so when I saw your theme, I said, please, may I participate? Because I'd love the opportunity to help more people. So thank you so much for having me. And I've got some great things to talk about today.
Yeah, we're going to have a great conversation about sexuality and pleasure. And I want to start. So in your bio, you talk about this crisis point that you hit at your marriage and that you were not only able to come out of that, but to really create this dream relationship. And I would love to hear about the role that sex and pleasure played in that journey.
It was everything. Sex was everything in that role. I just celebrated my 25th wedding anniversary with my gorgeous husband, Tim. We call him Sir Tim because he is a prince among men. And I married a great guy, but about a decade into our relationship, we had really grown apart intimately. And once I didn't want to have sex with him anymore, he didn't want to be emotionally connected to me anymore. And he checked out of the relationship, and we were living as friends, loving each other and caring for our daughter, our little girl, but not having hot, passionate sex. And it was the realization that we could get divorced like all of our friends were doing, or we could try to rekindle the passion in our relationship and see if we could save our marriage. And that's in fact exactly what we did. And from doing that, and really, I want to go back and I want to talk to you about what it was like when we first got together, where things went wrong, why things go wrong, and what anyone can do to keep their relationship not only passionate and sexy, but getting hotter and hotter and hotter over time. I call it the upward pleasure spiral. You can either swirl down the toilet in your relationship, or you can achieve more and more divine pleasure together. And everything that I want to share with you today, these are learnable skills that were for us the pivot point from the disaster, the near death of our marriage bed, transformed into just yesterday, the day before, we had one of the hottest sex dates of our lives together. Yeah. And you think that you hit your peak, like, oh, okay, I couldn't get any better than that. And it gets better.
Right. That's what I love about sex is that every time you think, oh, I think I've experienced, everything I can experience. And then a new layer opens up and a new layer opens up. And it's just a never ending journey.
As one of my beautiful mentors, Dr. Patty Taylor, says, there's always more. Like, enough said, mama, let's go find it. So it was funny, before we got together today, I really wanted to get the story from Tim. And as I was doing my hair and makeup and getting pretty for you today, Tim sat in the bathroom on the toilet seat, and he told me the story of the transformation of our sex life and how we turned the passion that fell apart into an even more white-hot passion. And it was really nice to hear his perspective on it too. So should I tell you the story?
I'm dying to know.
Okay. He was 29 and I was 31 when we got married. And he was my first husband. I was his first wife. We waited a while to find the one that we thought would be the right one. And one of the reasons that I married him was that I really liked his penis. I really liked his last name. And I really liked his ambition and kind heart. And they were a real relationship values match for me. It was the kinds of things that I could soar like an eagle and he would never hold me back. And I really loved his body, and I loved making out with him, and I loved making love with him. And I thought, this is my guy. We're hitting on all the cylinders, right? And over time, after a few years, the new relationship energy wore off for me. And I got, to the point where sex was okay, but it wasn't great. I had never had an orgasm from intercourse. And I had never really, I kind of noticed it. I could have it from oral sex, and I could definitely have one with my vibrator. And when I was younger, though I wanted to have orgasms from intercourse, for some reason it didn't occur to me that that was bothering me until later. And what had happened over the years was that Tim wanted to make love. He wanted, sex as in my penis goes in your vagina. And I thought that was the right thing to do. And we had a lot of sex like that. And frankly, he wasn't great at oral sex. He was okay, but I had to work really hard to come that way. And so we ended up having sex where he would kind of lie beside me while he penetrated me, and I would use my vibrator on my clitoris, and I would have an orgasm. But you do that for a decade, and frankly, why do I need you and your penis? I just don't. I can come without you with my vibrator. You're not adding a lot of value. And though I didn't think those things explicitly, my body, my yoni, was having those conversations with my body. Boy, when he puts his penis in, it does nothing for you really, and now you're kind of a little judgy and pissy about it. And I wanted to have less and less sex with him. And he got more and more mad. He would beg. He would try to do things that would make me happy so that, I would want to have sex with him. He would take me on vacations hoping for vacation sex. I remember one time he took me to France, and there was a couple having hot sex in the bedroom next to ours, and we could hear the headboard hitting on the wall. And I was thinking to myself, I don't know what they know that I don't know, but I'm on vacation. I should be having sex with my husband, but I don't know. I guess I have to do it. It was like turning out to be mercy sex for me. And that just drove a wedge in our relationship that felt untenable. And so on our 11th wedding anniversary, we had a couple, two martinis too many, two Mooney Charm martinis. And I said, I love you, but I don't feel like I'm in love with you anymore. And he said, I feel the same way. What are we going to do about it? And I said, well, I don't know. And he said, well, I'm just really, really angry about you not wanting me for sex. And I was like, I know, it's just not that good for me. I just don't get a lot out of it. And he said, well, do you want to try? And I said, I do. I want to try. And so we decided to go we did a lot of personal growth. We did everything from walk on fire at Tony Robbins to take tantric lovemaking classes. We learned orgasmic meditation and expanded orgasm and all these kinds of things. And it was really then that we started learning the techniques that we needed to have good sex together. And the expanded orgasm practice that we took on, that we have now been doing for 14 years, was really the pivot point for me. There's this thing called the orgasm gap. The gap between when men can orgasm from intercourse and when women can. And 95% of the time a man puts his penis in your vagina and he has an orgasm and ejaculates, and it feels great to him. And he doesn't really have to do anything but slip in and out, and it's all it takes for him. And you're lucky if he can last. It feels so good, right? 1 in 4 men, no matter what age they are, if they're sexually active, are premature ejaculators. I know some people don't like that word, premature, like it's like a disease or something. But when a guy comes too fast for you to get off, which was not my husband's problem, he could go and go. I just couldn't orgasm. And I'm going to tell you what we did to fix it and to bridge the orgasm gap. The orgasm gap is that maybe half the women some of the time could possibly have an orgasm, and most of the time every guy can. Yeah. And so, when you're basically used as a masturbatory sleeve for a decade, you don't want to have a lot of sex after that. I always wanted to have good sex. I have always wanted good sex. I have always sought it. My life has been a quest for the fabulous orgasmic pleasure that I know is my birthright. And so we did some very edgy things. You know, we went to workshops, we got naked in front of people. I didn't like it. It's so funny. I'm 57 next week.
Ooh.
And, you know, when I was 35 or like I guess I was 40 something and doing it, and I thought I was too old to take my clothes off. And I think to myself, oh, good Lord, I wish I'd gotten over that a long time ago. You know, I had body issues when I was beautiful and perfect, for God's sakes. I had all these things standing in my way, including being sexually abused as a young child by my stepfather over and over. And you know, there were just a lot. I got pregnant the first time I had sex. I even used birth control. I had to have an abortion. I mean, there were just so many things that happened to me. So I came into the relationship with all this baggage, and I needed to work through all those things. My husband had always been with women who could come really easily. And so he didn't think there was anything wrong with him. He thought he had all the skills he needed, like it was all me, you know, because he was defensive, of course. I mean, that's how testosterone is too. Just testosterone thinks it knows what it's doing. It's like full speed ahead. It's, you know, like totally confident, and it couldn't possibly be me, where estrogen's like, maybe it's me, maybe, you know, so we had to work through all those things.
Yeah.
So we learned about expanded orgasm from Dr. Patty Taylor. And the expanded orgasm practice, you may have heard of one taste, orgasmic meditation, deliberate orgasm, extended massive orgasm, doing, welcome consensus, like all of these people teaching essentially these basic clitoral stroke techniques, all got them from a place called Moore University in the 70s, that developed this clitoral stroking practice where your full attention is on the woman. And the man learns how to take over her nervous system and take her on an orgasmic ride. And what I really needed was to get off the vibrator and actually have my husband understand how to give me manual orgasms and fill me up with orgasms, really learn how to come me very well. And when we first started, we'd lay down for 5 minutes. We had an agreement. We'd lay down for 5 minutes. And if we couldn't find the spot, I could get up and go. And whenever we did the expanded orgasm practice, there was no requirement for me to have intercourse. And when he took that like guilty thing off the table, where, you know, when he kind of like got control, when he realized, oh, it's not that good for her. We have to make it good for her. So she'll want to be, he wanted to be wanted. He didn't want mercy sex, you know?
Wow.
So we practiced sometimes I could lay down, and I remember, you know, those feelings when you're like jumpy and you're shaking your leg and you've got like a lot of nervous energy. I felt incredible performance anxiety and real like wanting to just like leap out of the bed and run away. When you're dealing with your nervous system and you're dealing with flight, fright, food, feeding, some people eat, overweight people often, their unmet desire manifests in eating. Mine is I am a flight being, you know, like I want to run away.
I'm out. Yeah.
I'm out. And I would dissociate all the time because of my sexual abuse. So my husband couldn't keep his eyes locked with me. Like I was eye shy. I was like in my own, trying so hard to get off, you know? And so we had to work on a lot of stuff. I had to clear my sexual abuse. I had to forgive, forget, have compassion for my aggressor, my abuser, and let that go. Like work it, not stuff it, not like I put that away, but like, all right, I'm going to get it out. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to work through it with a therapist. I'm going to get it all taken care of. And of course, it always rules you in some ways, right? I mean, anytime you're sexually abused, there are always going to be vestiges of it. But I'm here to tell you that you can overcome it and go on to have the most wildly awesome sex life. Like I don't even think about that stuff anymore. That is so far in my ancient history. That happened to me as a little girl. And I honor all the pain I went through, but I also want a great sex life. And so I've been able to work through it. So I worked through that. I started being present with him. We learned how to be present with each other, not just rubbing our genitals to get off, but actually making love. Learned skill, really is, unless you're with someone you got really lucky. And then we started doing the expanded orgasm practice, 5 minutes, then 10 minutes. And then suddenly it was like, how long can I come? How long can I come? Just keep doing it until his leg would fall asleep. He would come me. And so I started getting good at having not only an orgasm, but multiple orgasms, stacking those orgasms, expanding the moment of time of those orgasms, all from the most delicate little clitoral stroke you could imagine on my clit. And that gave me the confidence in myself that I was, in fact, this incredibly orgasmic woman, that I didn't need a vibrator, that my husband could do it for me, that I could masturbate. I'd never really masturbated because I felt like, wow, if I masturbate, I'm taking an opportunity to have an orgasm away from my husband. Like I had that in my mind, like, well, he should just get me off. And so I overcame a lot of limiting beliefs, traumas, etc. in my quest. And we have now had an expanded orgasm practice for 14 years, taking the pressure off of me to expect that he would get to enter me really allowed me to fully explore my orgasmic potential. And right about the time that I was starting to come from these clitoral stroke techniques, which, by the way, I will give you a link so that you can get 3 free pleasure reports. One is called Touching for Rapture, which it takes to feel you, feeling me, feeling you, feeling the spot. One which is, what is expanded orgasm and how is it different from the kind of orgasms that you're having now? And another one which is called the peaking pleasure, which is really understanding that your nervous system needs stimulation and it needs breaks. And when you give it a break, it comes toward you and your orgasms expand. And so those 3 free reports kind of explain what the stroking technique is and how you do it. So I'll give you a link for that. And then I saw one of my friends was producing a video about female ejaculation, and he sent it to me, a DVD, and I plugged it in, and I was looking at it one afternoon. I was in the house. I'm like, oh, I got to look at this. I plugged it in. I looked at it, and I was like, riveted. It was the first time I saw women ejaculating. And I remember my daughter, my cute little girl at this time, she was like in elementary school, and we were starting to have a good sex life again. And she's toddling down the hall, coming home from school. And I'm like, dude, I got to get this, click, turn that off. Like it was like so much for me to even hold all the energy I felt looking at women having these ejaculatory experiences. Tim gets home that night, and I'm like, I think I found what I want to learn next. Look at this. And I showed him this video of these women ejaculating with partners, with toys, solo, masturbation. And I was like, I would like to do female ejaculation. And he's like, that sounds awesome, And so then we started learning about how you become an a gushing goddess. And so what I'm really telling you here in this story is that as partners, we had what we call erotic play dates, scheduled times that we would learn how to be better at sex together. And it was that, and it still is. Like, I actually have a date with my husband because I'm doing a review of G-spot and female ejaculation toys, because I have never used a lot of toys. I really like the kind of passionate lovemaking where 2 become 1. It's the interplay between the people. I don't want plastic things in my way. I just want my body to melt into his body and just come for an hour or 2 as much as possible together. But I'm interested to see there's some pretty cool tools out there. And so we have a date to try female ejaculation tools. I'm going to give them a shot. And so we're always learning together as a couple. And that just makes our sex get better and better. And it was through that experience of almost losing ourselves and then coming back together that had us start our company, Personal Life Media. 13 years ago, we did this. Our first product was Expand Her Orgasm Tonight, where we got Dr. Patty to create a product so we could teach people how to do this in the privacy of their own home. Because the orgasmic meditation stuff that most people are aware of is really kind of like a massage meets your clitoris. It's not heart connected. It's not a lover's thing in the way that it's done through one taste, which is fine.
Well, a lot of people do it with strangers as opposed to lovers. Yeah.
Exactly. And so
to do it with a lover, but it sounds like yours is really geared for couples.
Geared for heart-connected, conscious lovemaking, and for doing it until the day you die. Like a lot of the strokers that I know, a lot of the people that practice expanded orgasm are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. I bet there's somebody out there in their 90s who's been doing it. And so it's the kind of thing that keeps your genitals in good shape. It keeps you highly orgasmic. It continues to expand your orgasmic capacity. It keeps you limbically connected. It's a partner thing you can do no matter what the health of your partner is. If you can sit up in bed and you have a clitoris and 2 hands, you can do it. Like, so for people who are prostate survivors, cancer survivors, diabetes, whatever it might be, this is still an incredible experience for people. So we launched that product, that online home study course for lovers. And then we launched Female Liquid Orgasm and Squirt Your Heart Out.
Okay.
And that was through our work with Tallulah Solis. She did these squirt shops where she helped hundreds and hundreds of men and women, couples and singles, learn how to have female ejaculatory experiences and G-spot orgasms. And so that was the very beginning of our business together that we have now done for 13 years. We've got 20-something people in our company. It's our full-time job. It's what we do. And it's been extremely rewarding. But I think the most important part of this whole conversation is not that we turned our journey into, what we do and how we came back together, but that all of these skills are really available to everyone, and that you can just get better and better at sex. I learned how to bridge the orgasm gap. I started having orgasms from penetration. It was really the G-spot work that helped me do what my friend Sherry Winston, another one of my mentors, I've had great mentors. Yeah. I love her phrase, orgasmic cross training. Really, when you start to come from your clitoral stroking, and then you start to come from G-spot awakening, and you start to have female ejaculatory orgasms, your vulva gets engorged enough and your clitoral structure is able to be orgasmic enough that you can begin to feel good about being penetrated. It used to be that when Tim entered me, it took my energy down. Like I could be getting off, and then he'd put his penis inside me. I'd be like, it was like deflating for me. Now it's just the opposite. I can't wait to get that thing in me and play with it. And I can come all kinds of ways. I've actually, 2 of the things that I've been working on in my kind of erotic play dates with my husband, one has been really, can I say the F word?
Yeah.
Okay. I've been really fucking him. And he just relaxes. And I have been really working on my vaginal musculature and on my stroke techniques. And I've got like all these like little twerky things and these deep strokes, and like it is all, luckily he has become a multi-orgasmic man who knows how to cycle his erotic energy, because we've launched another program called Multi-Orgasmic Lover for Men that teaches male multiple orgasm, male full body energy, stamina techniques using breath work and muscle contractions and pelvic rocking that allows a man to last as long as she wants him to, so that he can just have body orgasms until he's ready and she's ready to ejaculate. And so I can really, really ride him and give him, like, take him to the point and back off, take him to the point and back off, take him to the point and back off. And that's one thing I've been learning. And then another thing, and I'm coming while I'm doing it, like I'm getting off on him. And one of the things that I have really learned is men want to give women incredible pleasure. They want to be wanted. They want to know you desire them. And one of the best ways to do that is to use that tool they have. When you're using their tool to get yourself off, oh my God, they feel like, I was put on the earth to do this right now. Yeah. I am giving my gifts.
Yeah. You just summed up my dissertation. I studied male sexuality through what men desire with sex workers. And because women have all of these, the whole culture has all of these concepts that are incorrect, that men just want to take, that they just know they want to be wanted. They want to give you pleasure. Men want this. And when they see that they can't, because the woman is blocked with her own sexuality and unable to have this quality and quantity of orgasm that you're talking about, they feel defeated and beat down just as much.
A lot of the things that I do, I created a program called Revive Her Drive for men in relationship whose wives were no longer intimate with them or were, like me, mercy sex givers.
It's so
And
common.
I teach men how to be her sexual healer, how to awaken her sensually, how to move her toward her pleasure, how to seduce her with small offers, how to take over her nervous system and allow, and in a way that she trusts that he's not going to drop her energy, that he's going to be able to take her up. I teach him how to understand her nervous system, how to understand how to approach her body, because a man, he wants you to like pretty much just start playing with his dick almost right away. Where if you, and so he goes right for your nipples, right for your clit, and you're like, what the hell are you doing? You know, like, and so guys, they just don't know. No one's ever told them. It's not their fault. And so I've spent a lot of time teaching men how to heal their woman from the traumas that she's had from his own bad education and probably everyone who came before him, including her friggin' father and uncle and, you know, like God. So crazy. But men can be the healing force for their woman's sexuality. And that is a very empowering thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious. So when your husband, when you were first doing this expanded orgasm practice, what would he do? You know, how did he get off? Would he masturbate afterwards? Because you had this agreement that no sex was required of you. So how would he be satisfied in that process?
Yeah. I would say that probably about, at first, maybe 60 or 70% of the time, I would want to go further. Mm-hmm. And then that just edged up over time until now our lovemaking dates always start with massage and then expanded orgasm, and then we move on. What I have found is I have a stubborn little pussy, and it just takes a lot of attention before it wakes up and says, and it doesn't matter how turned on I am. If I have, like, I literally don't have quickies because I just feel like I'm leaving all the joy and pleasure on the table, and I get cranky afterward. I get cranky because I'm not fully engorged. My vulva doesn't have time to, I don't have time to get a clitoral hard on. My G-spot doesn't puff up and swell out. I mean, it's like, you know, my tissue has constrictions in it. And so a good yoni massage with some great expanded orgasm, clitoral stroking, and then some G-spot work to release me, as well as breast massage, as well as making out. And hey, if my feet hurt, we start there. Because I can't really orgasm well if, you know, I got a crick in my neck or whatever. And so we schedule our lovemaking dates so we have enough time so that pussy doesn't have to get cranky. And that is really what works for me. Other women, they're probably faster than I am, but I bet you that 80% of women would do much better with their sex if they allowed themselves the time that it really takes to get turned on. Mm-hmm. So now I want to have sex with him pretty much every time he rubs me. But I didn't at first, and he was extremely patient, and he realized that he was just putting in the orgasms and putting in the time that it would take to awaken me. And there was so much progress. We were getting so much progress that it felt like he was moving forward, even if it wasn't as much intercourse as he wanted at first. Mm-hmm. There's another thing that I have also been practicing. One of the things I really wanted to do in my talk with you today was to just talk about a woman's orgasmic potential. And I've kind of done that through my own story and, you know, talking about female ejaculation and things like, I can literally soak the bed with so much fluid, and it feels fantastic. Mm-hmm. And it is a learned skill, and I don't do it all the time. I have control over when I do it. Mm-hmm. I don't choose to do it or want to do it all the time, but it's such a nice thing for a woman to learn how to have ejaculatory orgasmic experiences and full-on G-spot pleasuring. I've also been spending a lot of time learning about the connection between my mouth and my yoni, and the fact that it's one hollow tube, and the fact that it's the same thing on both ends, and the fact that I'm as orgasmic in my yoni as I am in my mouth and throat. And I've been spending a lot of time getting myself off, using my husband's penis down my throat, and having throat gasms. A lot of them, including ejaculatory throat gasms. There are times when I can literally ejaculate from both ends simultaneously, especially if he's stroking my G-spot and clit while I'm going down on him. I will have full body, like these, like, kind of orgasms that are like really deep, intensely satisfying experiences.
Yeah. Yes.
Are you having those?
I love after those, the high that you just walk around with for hours or days, where you're just like so deeply relaxed, like all of your primal energies and sounds and everything have come out. You're like, I love it. And I think it's so fascinating how sexuality builds like that. Like all the years where I was enjoying sex, I was having my clitoral external orgasm. You know, I was fortunate that I could have them with partners like very early, but I'll never forget the first day where I kept going and discovered vaginal. And then I, like you, was curious about ejaculation. I had this girlfriend from France who would tell me how she'd wet the bed, and I'm like, what the fuck? This does not happen to me. Like I must, and I used a toy, and I'm not a big toy person, but I was like, I gotta figure this out, you know? And then once I did, I just opened that door, and then I'll never forget, my first throat orgasm. For me, it was easier to lie on my back because I could really relax, whereas usually you give head like kind of over them, but for me to lie back, like really let me relax and experience that. And the list just goes on and on.
What else? What's the list goes on and on to what?
Well, I last year for the first time had an orgasm while I was fingering someone, and they had an orgasm, and I started orgasming in my body simultaneously with no stimulation. That totally blew my mind. I mean, I'd had orgasms in sleep and whatnot. Through anal sex, from that, and having other sort of spontaneous bodily orgasms, not needing any touch at all. You know, that's been really fun. Just the kind of layers of them, even multiple clitorals and how those change. And I love sexuality. I love the connection, the heart-to-heart connection. I love the expression with my body. And I love the medicine of it. You know, it really balances my brain chemistry. Like if I want to fall asleep, if I want to, I don't know, just relax and feel connected. And it is a skill set. And I think I was just curious enough to keep exploring. And when you're curious, you find the teachers and you find the partners to explore those things with. I remember the first time I was with a man who could have orgasms without ejaculating, and he'd have them over and over. He had been practicing Taoist, energy things. And I was like, this is amazing. So I just, it's been a fun journey, and I want more people to have access. And the first step, I think, is really knowing it's possible. And that's why I love that you shared your story. And I share mine in my book, The New Rules of Sex. I talk about a lot of my stories because I just think through storytelling, we go, like the light bulb turns on and you go, oh, that's possible. And then you can go out and seek it with your partner.
Exactly.
With yourself through self-pleasuring, buying courses like yours online and really just developing that skill set.
So what are the new rules of sex?
Well, I say the new rules of sex are what you rewrite for yourself. So we've all been programmed with these ideas around sex, our cultural sexual script. And that's why in this country, like we start with kissing and then fingering and then oral sex, like sex has this script, and it's predominantly, heteronormative, and it looks a certain way, and then you have sex for this amount of time and you get married, and so this idea that sex is dangerous is part of that script. And so I just challenged a lot of that in my journey and was curious, like, what is really true? What's really true about sex, about desire, about STIs, about all of that? And so the new rules of sex is essentially examining your own unconscious rules, and then an opportunity to rewrite them. Like for you rewrote it, and it was, I'm multi-orgasmic, I'm a squirter, I love sex, my pussy's like wants to pull the cock inside of it, it's so desirous. Like all of these are so different than the narrative that most women have, which is, I have to have sex so he doesn't stray, or sex desire goes away after you have a baby. I mean, I talk about this all the time. Like my sexual desire didn't go anywhere after I had my daughter. It's like, it's part of me. It was right there. And, so those are the new rules. And this summit is really an opportunity for people to examine their own ideas and miseducation. I mean, I can't tell you how many times in doing my doctorate that I came across medical doctors saying there's no such thing as female ejaculation. I mean, we still hear this going, even though, and that's why I interviewed Sherry Winston for the summit too, because we just need people explaining the true anatomy and how our bodies work and what's possible. And I love the story of how you and your husband healed your marriage. And I just kind of want to finish with 2 questions about that. Yeah. So I'd imagine that if a man was listening to that, he'd go, okay, Susan, I love your story, but how do I bring this up with my wife who's not wanting to have sex with me? Or the woman would be saying, I love your story, Susan, but my husband's never going to go for this. Like, he's not going to sit there and stroke me for 10 minutes. What do I do? So what would you say to someone who's wanting to have that conversation with their partner and start to heal their sexual relationship?
So the first thing that I would say to the guy who he doesn't think his wife would want to do it is that I don't recommend that you even talk to her about it. Because first of all, she's going to probably be more articulate than you are. Women generally tend to be more conversational than men, and men feel really out of their league in conversation. And so I say there's really 4 steps. The first step is in creating more polarity, more masculine, feminine energy. If you've been begging or doing honeydews or trying to be the perfect husband, turning yourself inside out to try to get sex, you got to stop doing that. Mm-hmm. And instead you have to romance her again and remind her why she fell in love with you in the first place. You really have to step up and deliver on the things that she needs to be in a relationship with you at the bottom line. For a lot of times, women stop having sex with husbands because they can't depend on them. They're out of a job. They're not bringing the income. They're bullshitters, they're just like men out of integrity. And so where are you out of integrity? And where are you shrinking from your masculine duties in the relationship? It's funny. A guy will get my Revive or Drive program and he'll email me and he'll be like, wow, I thought this is all going to be about how my wife was wrong. And I didn't realize I had all this work I needed to do on myself, but you've taught me to be more of a man, and thank you. And so romancing her and reminding her why she fell in love with you. Slowly awakening her body at a sensual level rather than a sexual level. If she's had any kind of illnesses, really nurturing her body in that way. So starting out with the things women like, which are foot rubs, neck rubs, back rubs, things like that, before you start trying to get sex from her. And then moving into things like letting her allow you to try to give her a breast massage or a yoni massage, really learning her anatomy and learning how to touch. A lot of guys, because they're so penis and vagina oriented, and that's what made her stop wanting sex with them, they're kind of like all thumbs, so their fingernails are scratchy, they haven't gone to the dentist, they've got a scratchy beard, they've never shaved their pubic hair back. Like, nobody wants to have sex with you, dude, you're disgusting, right? And so they need to hear, like, number one thing women want is a clean dude. You stink, take a shower. Like, it's not that hard, but you have to do some fundamental stuff. And I always feel bad saying this stuff to guys. Like, it's really hard for them to hear, but I do have to give guys credit. They're like, just tell me what it is and I will freaking do it, because I don't want to leave her. I don't want to ruin our kid's life. And I can't go the rest of my life without having sex, right? So, okay, what do I do? And then once you start getting her cuddling you at night, you learn how to hold her. I have a thing I teach them called the soulmate embrace. When most men hug a woman, they hug her, and as soon as she relaxes, they let go instead of pulling her tighter. And so a lot of it is about really how to show up and be the man for her. And then understanding her anatomy, understanding how to go from the outside in. There's some pretty simple things that no one ever teaches guys, so how does the woman's body work and how do you kind of approach it? So earning her body's trust again, earning her trust again, and then awakening her sensually and making her remember, oh, right, I actually did like sex once upon a time. It's kind of, there are a lot of women for whom they'll have sex and they'll be like, oh yeah, I like sex. Why don't I ever want it? Well, because he's not doing all these other things that make you want it. So that's what I would say to a guy is essentially there's kind of like 4 steps to reviving your sex drive. And they're not hard and they're fun. And she starts to respond to you again and she's a lot less bitchy. And so, yeah, is it work? But it's fun work. It's home fun, not homework.
Yeah.
That's one. And then for women who think that their husband won't do it, most often what I find is that men shy away from sex for a couple reasons. Number one, they're having some erectile function issues, which is primarily bad diet. And so as his wife or girlfriend, you got to feed him decent food and get his butt off the couch and get him walking, because circulation and nutrition are the 2 things that are most important for guys' erectile function. If it's not an erectile function thing, and there's lots of stuff that can be done around that, it could be that they just don't know what they're doing. They're just lost. They just don't know what they're doing. And so one of the things I have is a Steamy Sex Ed video collection, which is 8 videos that teach sensual massage, genital massage, hand jobs, fellatio, cunnilingus, sex positions, thrusting techniques, like all heart-connected, conscious lovemaking stuff, and that you watch them together. They're made for women to watch with their husbands. So you don't have to tell them what to do. You just say, why don't you just follow along and stroke my yoni as you see it on there? And why don't you let me stroke your cock as I see it on those videos? And let's just see what that's like and talk about it. Cool. Something like that, where it's a couples project, an erotic play date. Yeah. Couples that play together, stay together, especially in the bedroom. That is a really big help for women whose guys think they know what they're doing and they don't even want to hear her tell them. And so if he doesn't want to rub her yoni, it's because he just doesn't know what to do. But the other issue often for guys is that they are just not turned on by their wives anymore. And that's the hard thing to hear for women, is like, he's not having sex with you. How do you look? What are you bringing to the relationship? Are you happy or miserable? Is he having sex elsewhere? Mm-hmm. And that's why there are so many sex workers. There are so many sex workers because men have a high capacity for desire. Testosterone makes them horny every day till the day they die. In general, where women, they can kind of go without sex for a lot longer, but guys just can't. They're miserable. I mean, they masturbate every day. That's why porn is so big. And it's a bummer that they're looking at all that female degradation to get off when you could be getting off on their tool for them, And so I hope that more people will feel like, okay, well, there is a path to getting back to this. And there are things I can learn and things we can do. And yeah, we do have to take a look at ourselves and who we're showing up as in the relationship. And we do have to potentially have some frank talks, but there's totally a way to have what you want, even if there are things like illnesses and cancers and massive frustrations from the past. All those things can just be wiped clean and you can move forward. There's so many things you can do, even if, you do not need a hard penis to have great sex. There are so many things you can do without it. And so I say a lot of times it's, my biggest job is giving people the permission to get creative.
Yeah. I remember back years ago where I thought, oh, nothing can satisfy me the way a penis can. And then to discover, amazing fingering or, and to go, oh, okay, never mind, change. Because I liked penetration, that your hearts are connected and you're like together. And then I found that you could have that without necessarily being in that position. And so, you just keep exploring and you can find what you're looking for.
Yeah. Strap-ons work well for men with erectile dysfunction, permanent erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
Get a strap-on. Get a lover for the 2 of you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that can be done.
Yeah, it's true. Well, Susan, you are such a wealth of information, such an inspiration.
Good. It's a high bar on your summit. I hope I did a good job for all of you.
Yeah, I loved your stories. And
you
sounds like there's some amazing content at your website. What is your website for everyone to go explore at?
Well, you can find my videos all at betterlover.com. That's on YouTube. And I've got at least 150 sex technique videos there that are all free. And you can also find all of the programs and the information about them at personallifemedia.com.
Okay, Personal Life Media. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Susan, and we'll see you all at the next video. Bye-bye.